Dear participants, I welcome you all for the day two third session. So this session is going to handle by Professor B. John Samuel. He's he's assistant professor from our department, Sayadamal Engineering College. He completed his undergraduate degree from Adiyaman College of Engineering, and he did his post-graduation degree in Mohammed Sattak Engineering College, Kilakarai. Now he is pursuing his PhD in Anna University. So he is having more than 8 years of experience in teaching. He is well versed in technical knowledge in all aspects. So with this, I would like to call Professor John Samuel to handle the session on blockchain concepts. John, it's your call.
Thank you, sir. Very warm evening to everyone present here. First, I would like to thank our management, our correspondent, our principal, our head of the department and coordinator of this FDP, Dr. B. Muthukumar sir, to giving me this opportunity to share my views regarding the blockchain concepts in this FDP. So we have come across several applications regarding this blockchain. So from the first session, we have discussed about application in banking system, finance system, and the future of blockchain. And we have come across integrating the blockchain with IoT. We may ask why we are giving this much importance to this blockchain. Almost we have crossed a lot of topics regarding the application, but still we are not covered the basic concepts. So I want to cover the basic concepts of this blockchain, because all are telling so many applications in all the fields. So that much familiar one is this blockchain. So we need to know why we are giving this much importance to blockchain, whether it is having several advantage or because of security or because of its performance. So all the aspects we are going to see what blockchain is and what it make use of it and what kind of key characteristics it is having. So in these perspectives we are going to see this session. Before that, I want to convey one thing. So this is a basic concept session. So I don't want to take too much technical or too much programming concept. So this entire session will be having more number of illustrations, more number of examples, so that each and every kind of participants are very easy to understand. So first thing, I want to acknowledge the authors of various contents and images and figures, which are all I am using in this presentation. So I want to acknowledge their real work. I want to acknowledge their real research. So I want to acknowledge them all. So with this, I want to start this session. So this is the agenda for this entire program, entire session. First one, I want to start with what not the blockchain is, because we are all having several ideas. Whenever we are saying blockchain, we may have several ideas. So I want to clarify. So what not blockchain is, and I want to discuss with background idea. So what make or what situation forces us to use this blockchain concept. So I want to make this background idea, and I want to give some formal definition for the blockchain. And next, we are going to discuss with key characteristics. So what are all the key characteristics that the blockchain is having, and the key benefits of the blockchain. Next, the key concepts for business. So the blockchain key concept which make very familiar in business part. And finally, we are going to discuss the various kinds of participants they are all involving in this blockchain and their different roles. Right. So first, what the blockchain not? So whenever we are talking about the blockchain, so the next immediate thing that is coming into our mind is Bitcoin. So because of the familiarity of this Bitcoin, whenever we are saying blockchain, so immediately we will think of this Bitcoin. But actually, this Bitcoin is not blockchain. So this Bitcoin is make use of blockchain, but that is not entirely a blockchain. So here a Bitcoin is a kind of cryptocurrency which is introduced in the year of 2009, and it make uses of the all the concepts or a particular concepts of this blockchain in its futures. So it's a cryptocurrency only. So for example, if we are considering since we are a technical person, let me start with this. So we are using a different kind of operating systems. For example, I am using Windows 10 as my operating system in my laptop, and I may have several application software like Microsoft Office package, browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and so many things I am making use of it in this particular Windows 10 platform or Windows 10 operating system. So similarly, so this blockchain is equal to the operating system, right? So this is the base platform, and the Bitcoin is equivalent to the application software which I told, like whether it may be a Microsoft Office or it may be a um, browser. So these application softwares will make use of this operating system. So the same thing here also. So this Bitcoin is make use of not maximum concepts of blockchain, but that is a cryptocurrency based one. So it is not a Bitcoin. So whenever we are talking about blockchain, we should not recall this Bitcoin. It is an application. That's all. Application of blockchain. We can say it as Bitcoin. Right. Now, I want to give what makes this, or what forces us to use this blockchain. So, if we are thinking in this perspective means, actually in this computational era, we are in need of some kind of decision making process, or we can say it as we are in need of some kind of rational decision making process, like so true or false, yes or no, 0 or 1, whatever it may be. So we have to make some kind of decision whether should I commit or should I roll back. So in everything, whether it may be a industry or it may be in a banking sector or it may be in a health sector, whatever it may be, so we have to make some kind of decisions. So for this, we are in need of a decentralized or distributed computation and information sharing platform that enables multiple authoritative domains who do not who do not trust each other, but they have to cooperate, coordinate, and collaborate in a rational decision making process. So this is the very background idea for going for this blockchain. So we are in need of some decision making process. So when we are saying decision making process, it cannot be done by a single computer, or it cannot be done by a single machine. So for that, we are in need of multiple computation devices. So whenever multiple computation devices getting involved means we are in need of sharing the information, so that every machine can make decision, or every machine can compute something and give the decision. So in this thing, the very important thing is all should be multiple authoritative domains. Okay, so it may be a node, or it may be a user, or it may be a server, whatever it may be. So they should be in a multiple authoritative domains. But the important characteristics of them is those do not trust each other. They should not trust each other. So maybe n number of peers or n number of nodes may involved in this particular course of action to make a decision making, but very important key point is they should not trust each other. Because if the trusting each other means they may commit fraudulent, they may commit mistakes, or they may come some kind of forgery actions. So because of this, we are in need of multiple authoritative domains, but they should not trust each other. But one more important characteristics is they should cooperate to complete the task. They should coordinate to complete the task. They should collaborate to complete the task. So this is the key idea behind this entire scenario. So this is the key idea why we are bringing this blockchain. Right. Now I want to explain this all these things in a detailed manner. So first, I'm saying that it is a distributed or decentralized computational and information sharing platform. So we may ask why we can go for centralized, but we are in need of distributed or decentralized because blockchain is a distributed or a decentralized platform. Right. Let me illustrate with an example. Right. So here for this illustration I am introducing two persons called Alice and Bob. Right. In a traditional computation system, you see, if Alice want to share a document to Bob means Alice will create a document and she will write the content. Then she may share it over internet to Bob, whether it may be a one-way communication or it may be a two-way communication. So whatever it may be, so whether through mail or whatever it may be, she will create a document, she will create the content and write the content, then she will give it to the Bob. Now Bob wants to update and give it to Alice. So he will update the document and he will give it to Alice. See, this is a traditional system. So to create and to update the document, so one has to create the document and then he has to post it on maybe by mail or whatever it may be. And then the second person has to receive that document, has to update it, and then he has to post it to again the first person. So this will take a lot of time. This will reduce the performance and lot of disputes may occur. Okay, so for this, the centralized thing is introduced. The centralized computation is introduced. So we know, so whether Google document or Microsoft OneDrives, so they are giving option to store the file in a single location and then we can share the files. So those who are all having the option to edit may edit. So in this example, you see, I am storing this document in a centralized manner so that Alice and Bob can edit or create the content or update the content simultaneously. Right? It seems to be good because we are using Google documents in our corporation, sorry, in our institutions, in our industries, in our all the things, whether it may be a banking sector or whatever sector we are taking. So this is common. So there will be a centralized one. There will be a centralized server. So n number of clients or n number of peers may access that server or access that client or access the database or access that file and they may update it. Yeah, it seems to be a good one till the failure occurs. Because since it is a centralized one, we cannot say it will give a reliable performance at all the time. You see, if it is a Google document, it is okay because they are having n number of replications or n number of servers across the world. But you think of the corporate server, or if you think of the your industrial or your institutional servers, You see, so there will be a common server for your institution. In that place, n number of students or n number of faculties may access that server. Maybe there may be a common file, whether it may be to share your personal details, or it may be to share your uh, academic details. There may be a common file, so anyone can access that particular file at any time, and anyone can access the update their content in that place, right? So this is very good. But if in case this centralized system failed, right? Or I can say in other terms, if the network to the centralized system is failed, means that no participants or no members shall access this file or this server, and they cannot update. If the failure of is for 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 days, then till 2 or 3 days we cannot access this particular server, and we cannot get any information, or we cannot update anything if we are depending on this single server. We may have n number of secondary servers. If we are taking corporate, means they will be having primary secondary server, secondary primary. That will be, they may have n number of servers to store their important data. But if you are taking an industrial, or if you are taking an institutional, means this will not be possible, right? So if the network or if the server fails, means the entire communication will be failed. So here the centralized architecture is failed. So for this purpose, first I'm going to introduce this distributed or decentralized concept here. So for this reason only, we are going for this distributed or decentralized architecture. Now you see, again I'm going for this background idea. So we are making use of this So we are going to use this distributed or decentralized computation. See here, so there are three platforms, and as we have discussed, if there's no failed means, so the entire thing will be fake. So this is the major drawback in the centralized system. When it comes to decentralized, there will be n number of coordinators are there, or n number of servers are there. In these servers, there will be lot of clients will be attached to it. So if any of the client or any of the node failed, means that will not be a problem. But if a coordinator, okay, we may this, so sorry.
प्रॉब्लम आ रहा है यहाँ तो भी नहीं छोड़ वो पूरे मालूम कर लेते वो किसी से आगे तो दे देना प्रॉब्लम आ जाता है
Okay, sorry for the disturbance. Right, so here we are having centralized, decentralized, and distributed architectures. You see, in the centralized architecture, there will be n number of nodes connected to a center node, that is that we can call it as a coordinator node. So if this coordinator failed, means this entire thing will be failed. So they cannot access this centralized coordinator, or we can say it as a centralized server. or we can say it is a centralized file. If any of the participant or any of the node failed means that will not be a problem, but this coordinator failed means that will create a problem here. So if you are moving for a decentralized architecture, in this decentralized architecture, there will be a lot of coordinators node will be there, coordinator node will be there. You see here, in this, a lot of participants or lot of peers are there. A group of peers will be attached to a coordinator, right? So, yeah, sorry, wait a minute. Just I will represent my screen. Right, I hope my presentation is visible. Right. So in this, a lot of coordinator will be there. If a peer failed means that will not be a problem again. If a coordinator failed in a decentralized architecture means these peers will join with this nearby coordinators. So this is the advantage of decentralized mode. If any of the coordinator failed means the nodes which are all participating in this network will attach to the nearby node, and they will the coordinator will serve as a coordinator for the newly attached nodes too. So here also there will not be a problem. But in the decentralized too, if the network path between the two coordinator failed means or the two zone failed means, again here also it will be a problem. So for that purpose, we are moving towards the distributed architecture. So each and every node will be connected to other node. So whether for seeing network may be complex in this, but these things will be worked in a coordinated manner. So if any node failed means that will not be a problem, because each and everything will have its own copy. So each and everything will have its own schedule, and each and everything have its own job list, so that it will execute its job in a sequence manner. So it won't depend on any other thing. So for this purpose only, we are moving for this decentralized or distributed systems, right? So this is the key background why we are not selecting the centralized node. So as I told, these three concepts have advantage and drawbacks too. But when it comes to blockchain, we are in need of either decentralized or distributed, so that they can coordinated, they can cooperated, they can collaborated with each other to make this decision making successfully. Okay? So this is the key concept or basic idea to bring the blockchain. Now, again, with this key idea, if we see this means, you see now the Alice and Bob, they are having their own copy of their document, because here, as I told, it is decentralized or it is distributed. So they can update their documents, they can create their documents, they can do whatever modifications, and through the medium of internet, they can share the documents. But one more thing is in our definition, that is, they do not trust each other. So they do not trust each other. But in internet, it all the time we cannot say that we do not trust each other. We will trust. But actually in internet, lot of things may happen. So here only we want to introduce this blockchain concept. So to ensure confidentiality, so to ensure integrity, to ensure availability. So we may know this CIA triad very familiarly. So for this purpose only, we are introducing blockchain. That means we are in need of provide confidentiality. So the data should be kept in a secret manner. So it should not be tampered. So for this, we should provide confidentiality. The next one, integrity. So as we told, we should not trust each other, but at the same time, integrity should not be violated at any cost. I may send a data to one another person, but I should not tell that I am not sending the data. So the integrity property is also very important. And the availability. So most of the things are happen due to denial of attacks, denial of service attacks. So we know that very familiarly. So to ensure this triad, we are introducing this blockchain. So now I want to introduce the formal definition for the blockchain. So here I have mentioned two different definitions for the blockchain. So blockchain is a shared immutable ledger that facilitates the process of recording transactions and tracking assets in a network. So one more definition says it is an open or an open, decentralized or distributed ledger that can record transaction between two parties in an efficient, verifiable, and a permanent way. So this is the formal definitions. I have to take it from two different sources. So these two different sources say a common thing. So it should be an open manner. That means it should be a shared one. It should be shared with anyone. It should be shared with who are all having that permission or who are all authoritative. So it should be shared with them, or it should be shared with the group who are all permitted to do a course of action. And the second one is it should be a distributed or decentralized immutable ledger. So the ledger should be in a decentralized manner. It should not be in a centralized manner. So it should be in a decentralized manner so that anyone can access the ledger and anyone can do the transaction, but that transaction should be recorded in a manner of immutable way. It should not be changed at any cost. So this is the key advantage and very, very key concept of the blockchain. So the ledger is an immutable ledger. So we discussed why we are going for distributed, but one more important thing is immutable, because in this world, or we can say it as in this cyber world, lot of transactions are happening. Lot of websites or lot of database storage are happening through internet. Anyone can deny it, or anyone can reverse the transaction. But if it is in a immutable manner, means it will be in a secure way, so the source and the destination, the person who initiated the transaction and the person who completed the transaction will be recorded in an immutable manner. So this is very, very key idea or very, very key characteristics of blockchain. It should be in an immutable manner, and also it should be in a verifiable manner. Okay, you may ask why this should be immutable, right? If you are seeing, so if you are committing any mistake, means, for example, I am saying is for an example for understanding, we may go for n number of websites or n number of applications in our mobile phone or in our laptop browser. So see, in this world we can delete all the history and everything, and we can say we are not browsing that site, or we can say I am not opening that application. But in the centralized or in the servers, everything is recorded in a immutable manner. I don't know how many of you are aware of these Google servers or Google privacy policies. If you are going with myactivity.google.com. Let me type it in the chat box. So I have typed it, included a website. I think let me verify that website. Yeah, just if you go through this URL means you can see. So everything is recorded. So whatever it may be, if you are doing anything in your mobile phone, Android phone, or if you are browsing anything in your from your Chrome browser means, so each and everything will be recorded in an immutable manner for some privacy reasons. So this is what the blockchain here also deals with. So here we are in need of immutable ledger for some to maintain this CIA triad. Let me explain why we are in need of immutable ledger. Right? Again, okay, so before that, let's see why this term blockchain came. Right? So here you see this block, so every transaction, so in this definition we have seen we have to record the transaction. So both the definition see those things, tell those things, right? So we have to record the transaction. So every transaction should be recorded, but it should be recorded in a secret manner, or we can say it as it should be stored in a secret manner. So for this thing only we are saying it as a blockchain. So every transaction will be stored as a block. If you are taking this block 1574 means, so this is one transaction and this transaction will be stored as a hash function. Here the encryption and all the things will be carried out through SHA-256. So secured hash algorithm 256. By using this secured hash algorithm 256, they are encrypting and they are keeping every transaction in a secret manner. Right? For example, now this 1574, consider this 1574 as a transaction. Now this transaction is saved as a hash in a block. Now the next transaction is happening. Let's consider it as 1575. So again, this is stored in this block as a hash. Now you see this block is having the previous block's hash also, right? So it's chained with the previous block. And again, if you are taking the 1576, transaction 1576 means, again, it's having its own transaction which is stored as a hash value, as well as it stored the previous hash value too, previous block hash value too. So why we are calling it as blockchain. So these blocks are interconnected with next block, next immediate block. You may ask why we are doing this, so that if any of the attacker or if any attacker wants to tamper anything means or any of the block means, it will reflected in others too. So it can be easily traced by anyone who are all participating in this kind of transaction. So this is the main advantage here, right? So this will be, so every transaction will be stored as a block. In the block, this will be stored as a hash function. So again, I am telling, so here SHA-256 algorithm is commonly used in blockchain to store the transactions, right? Next, again, I want to illustrate one more thing. So why we are in need of immutable distributed ledger, right? In a traditional banking application, if you are taking means, so before two decades, in each and every bank they will be having a ledger, so to store each and everything or to write each and everything. For example, here again, let me say Alice and Bob. So if these two participants are customer of this particular bank, means these two person will have a page in their ledger, in the bank's ledger, right? So for example, I may say in this ledger there is a different page for Alice and there will be a different page for Bob. So the ultimate purpose for this to keep every transactions that are made by Alice and Bob to write it in the register and to keep it as a record. Right? So we know these things are very traditional thing, right? So for example, let me say if Alice want to deposit rupees 100 means, so this will be recorded in this ledger like 100 is deposited. Maybe just I want for example I am saying this, so they will write it in which date, in which time, in what mode, whether cash or whether through check or DD payment. So all the things will be recorded in the Alice page as, so rupees 100 is credited to Alice account on that particular date at the particular mode of transaction. As well as if Bob deposited means that also will be stored, right? So now if he wants to withdraw means, so that also will be stored in this ledger, right? So this is a traditional system, right? If this transaction is in a same bank means, for example, now Alice want to give rupees 90 to Bob means, since they are using the same bank and the ledger is common ledger, it is easy to transfer. This is the traditional method. But if they want to go with one more bank means, for example, if Bob wants to give rupees 100 to a person who is an outside customer of this bank, means this will be notified through a letter and this will be passed in a secured manner. It will reflect after a number of days. So this is a traditional method, right? So this is a complex one. Even in this computer era also, we are doing this kind of task in lot of manners. So only we are saying it as a centralized, because this ledger is centralized in the particular bank. This is not given to this bank. So he doesn't know whatever thing happening or whatever thing going on this bank. So they have to intimate this bank through a proper communication. So for this, we are in need of distributed ledgers. You see, now I'm having, so let us consider this 4-person. Okay, I'm not telling the bank example. So let us consider the 4-person, maybe their names may Alice, Bob, and we can say it as Dave and Cathy. Okay, so for example purpose. Now, as a blockchain concept, we are discussing about the blockchain. So we are having a public ledger, right? So this is a distributed one and this is a shared one. So here you see Dave is having rupees 1000 in his account. So this will be written in the public ledger of Dave, as well as this will be stored in all of the participants' public ledger. See, this is the concept, blockchain concept, right? So everyone will be having their public ledger, right? So in everyone's public ledger, that 1000 rupees which is credited into Dave's account will be reflected in a short period, right? Now again, now he wants to give rupees 600 to Cat, right? Now he wants to give rupees 600 to Cathy. You see, here comes the concept of smart contract, right? So in this blockchain, there are a lot of concepts are there to execute a transaction. So we are going to see all the concepts in the upcoming sessions, all the technical things in the upcoming sessions, right? So just I want to give an overview, right? Now actually Dave wants to provide or give rupees 600 from his account to CAT. Actually Dave is having rupees 1000 in his account, which is already recorded in the public ledger of Dave, as well as this is distributed to all the people. So all like Alice public ledger is also having, that is Dave is having rupees 1000, as well as Bob's public ledger is also having that Dave is having 1000 rupees. So likewise it is stored, right? Now here comes the smart contract. Now these people should be, this all other participants should be come to an agreement that Dave is eligible to give rupees 600 to Cathy. So for this, the two concepts are introduced, which we are going to see it in the upcoming slide. That is, one is called as smart contract, right? And the second one is called as consensus, right? So this, in the smart contract, there will be some set of rules, there will be some set of agreements, there will be some set of bonds. So based on that contract only, this consensus will be made. For example, let's consider a contract like, if Dave is having greater than rupees 900 in his account, then only he can provide rupees 600 to Cathy. Likewise, it will be written in the smart contract. Right? Just I'm saying it for an example. Right? So in the smart contract, again I'm telling, the smart contract, consider that if Dave is having greater than 900 rupees, above 900 rupees, then only he can give rupees 600 to, or 600, or the amount which is less than 900 to anyone. If it is written like that in this smart contract, means then the each and every participant here, Alice, Bob, as well as Cathy, they will see the smart contract, whether the transaction can be recorded or not, or this transaction can be executed or not, because this is initiated by Dave, not by Cathy. So this is initiated by Dave, that is, he wants to give 600 to Cathy. This is a transaction. Yes, right? Maybe it seems to be a financial transaction, but each and everything in the internet era is stored like this only. So whether the browsing the websites, or storing any data in a database through any web servers or web applications, so whatever it may be, and the banking sector applications, right, whatever it may be, so everything will be like this transaction, right? So here he wants to give 600. Now all other participants, Alice, Bob and Cat, will go and refer the smart contract. That like, so Dave wants to initiate a transaction, like he wants to give rupees 600 to Cathy, whether this transaction can be executed based on the smart contract. Likewise, they will refer the smart contract. If the smart contract allows this, means they will come to a mutual agreement like, okay, this transaction can be executed, right? Because why we are going to refer this smart contract is, again, as per the definition, we are in need of recording each and every transaction in an immutable manner. So the recorded things cannot be rolled back. So for that purpose only, so based on the smart contract, the consensus will be done. Right. So this consensus, smart contracts, these are all things we are going to see in the upcoming sessions by eminent speakers. Now, just I want to give an overview only. Right. So here, so based on the smart contract, now these three persons come to a mutual agreement that yes, they can execute this transaction. So now in the public ledger of Dave, once they agree in the public ledger of Dave, it is recorded, it will be recorded as Dave is giving rupees 600 to Cathy, and this transaction will be also recorded in each and every participant's public ledger. Right. So here, this is very important thing. Okay. So these transactions will be updated in each and everyone's public ledger. So now I think you might understand why we are going for the distributed thing, why we are in need of multiple authoritative domain, those who don't trust each other. Right. So this transaction will be recorded as like this, as well as one more thing is recorded that Cathy is having rupees 600 in her account and Dave is having 400 in his account. Right, because this 1000 rupees is reduced to 400. You see, now after giving this 1000 rupees, right, after giving this 1000 rupees, actually this is not undone. This transaction is also recorded, and that is also not deleted in the public ledger, but instead of that it is added as a additional transaction. So Cathy is having 600, now Dave is having 400. Right. So this is the immutable property in the blockchain. Now this transaction cannot be reversed because this will be committed once it is executed. So that is the key property of blockchain. Once before executing a transaction, they will check smart contract, they will sit for consensus, but once it is executed means it will not be undone or it will not be rolled back. Right. If you want to roll back means this should be written as another transaction like that Cathy is giving 600 to Dave. Likewise, it will be added as a one more transaction. Right? So it's a very important thing. So only we are in need of immutable register or immutable public ledger. Right? So this key property makes blockchain this much familiar. So no one can deny the execution. No one can deny the ownership. You see, the ownership also recorded, right? Just for understanding, I'm just for illustrative only, I'm keeping like that. So actually, this ownership also recorded because you see, Dave to Cathy is giving 600. That's also recorded. So who initiated the transaction? Dave. That is recorded. Who is the recipient? Cathy. That also recorded. What kind of transaction? So for example, giving rupees 600, that is recorded. After this transaction, what kind of changes are made in the ledger? That is also recorded. Right. So it is an immutable ledger. So no one can tamper this. If they want to deny this means he can tamper his public ledger, but he cannot tamper Bob's public ledger, or he cannot tamper Cathy's public ledger, or he cannot tamper Alice's public ledger. Right? So only this blockchain gives a tighter security. So the integrity property will be achieved. By SH8 126, the security property will be achieved as well as the availability. So based on the consensus, when only they are giving the thing or they are executing the transaction. So the availability also ensured at all the time. Right now, after each and every transactions, sometimes the smart contracts may be getting updated. Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes, based on the transaction, it may updated. Right. See now one more thing. Now Dave wants to give rupees 600 to Alice. Right. But now actually Dave is having 400. Right now actually Dave is having 400. Now the smart contract will be updated like, right, so if Bob Dave is having greater than 400 means you can allow for any kind of transaction, otherwise it should be denied. Likewise it will be updated in the smart contract, right, after this execution, because now he is not having 1000 rupees, he is having only 400 rupees. Right now the smart contract will be updated as, if he is having greater than 400 you can approve any kind of transaction, otherwise no. Likewise this smart contract will be updated. But now you see Dave is trying to initiate a transaction like giving rupees 600 to Alice. Now, once again, so each and every participants who are all involved in this blockchain transaction will refer the smart contract. They will refer the smart contract and they will come to an agreement that based on the smart contract, this transaction should be denied. This should not be executed. Right. So here, as again I am telling, just for each and every one's understanding, I am going with this banking application or like giving money as an illustration. But actually, each and every transaction will be executed in this similar manner. Right. Just again, once again, I am having one more illustration in that. Let's say it in a detailed manner too, right? So likewise it will be denied. Even if he wants to give rupees 100 to Bob means, that also will be denied, because here the condition is, if Dave is having greater than 400 we can allow that. Here the amount is not a matter, or here what kind of transaction is not a matter, but the smart contract is a matter. In the smart contract it tells, if Dave is having greater than 400 we can allow any kind of transaction, otherwise we have to block any kind of transaction. So here not only 600, even if he wants to try to send rupees 100 to Bob, or he wants to deposit a amount of rupees 200 to Cathy, but the smart contract says this should not be allowed, because Dave is having only 400, not greater than 400. So these transactions will be denied. Right? So this will be based on the smart contract. These persons, these other participants will come to an agreement or consensus. Right? You may ask, sometimes disputes may also rise. For example, so here this consensus will be based on polling technology. We know the polling technology very well. Yes, right? So here three other participants are there. If three other participants giving a same voice means, then that will be executed. In some case, let's consider Alice is not there. Right? Only two participants are there. Right? If two are giving permission to execute a transaction means, that is not a problem. If two are giving a permission to block a transaction means, that is also not a problem. If disputes occur, like if Bob is allowing a transaction based on a smart contract, based on some kind of smart contract, as well as CATI is denying the transaction based on the same smart contracts some points, right? Like loss. Okay, some contract points. There will be a dispute because he is also allowing based on some points of smart contracts. She is also denying based on some points of smart contracts. There arising a dispute, right? For this, there are some Byzantine smart contracts or some Byzantine solutions are there. So based on these Byzantine solutions, they will solve their disputes. So these things will be discussed. I hope these things will be discussed in the smart contract topic. So now I'm skipping, right? So these are the things important. So from this idea, we are telling some key characteristics of the blockchain. So which we have seen from the illustration. The first one is consensus. That is the mutual agreement based on the smart contract. The second one is provenance. That is who initiated the transaction. So in the previous example we have discussed, right? So each and every transaction is stored in that manner only, right? Who initiated the transaction and to whom it is going. Likewise, the source, the origin of the transaction, and what kind of asset is involved in this transaction, because there are multiple assets are there. There are various types of assets are going to be involved in the transactions. It may be a tangible assets like the physical resources, maybe a land, maybe a house, maybe a car, maybe a two-wheeler. Likewise, tangible assets may be there, as well as intangible assets like agreement, bonds, maybe some legal documents. Likewise, some intangible things too. Intangible assets may be also there. So what kind of assets and who is the author or who is the original owner? So all the things will be keep in the blockchain. So this is also a key characteristic. So this characteristics is called as provenance, right? And then immutability. The third important characteristics is immutability, right? So once the transaction is executed means it should not be rolled back at any cost. That also we have discussed. If we want to undo this means that also should be recorded as a new thing, right? And the finality, right? Like provenance, the finality are also important characteristics. That is the change of ownership, right? So once it is at once the owner of the particular asset is one person, now after the transaction the owner of the asset is other person. Like you see again the previous example, before this transaction the owner of this 600 is Dave, but after the transaction the owner of this 600 is Kathy, right? So this is called as finality. The provenance is the initiator. So Dave is initiating the transaction. So that is the provenance. Immutability, it cannot be re-recorded. Instead of that, Cathy can give rupees 600 and that also will be recorded, right? So these are the key characteristics that are all getting involved in the blockchain, or we can say this is these four are the blockchain's key characteristics in technical as well as in business perspective, right? So with these characteristics in our mind, let's go and see one more example, one more illustration, right? So here I want to illustrate a practical illustration. Here the change of ownership from a manufacturer to a leaser, right? So let's see this example in a detailed manner, right? So in most of the countries, even in India, there is a concept called giving lease, that is giving two-wheeler or four-wheeler to lease, right? So with this example, I want to start with this. That means, so the manufacturer will manufacturing some units of cars or two-wheelers, four-wheelers or two-wheelers. They will giving to it to some kind of leasing agents and user like us. If we want to get a car means no need of purchase it. So we can have a car from a leasing agent. We can get it for 2 years or 3 years by executing some sort of bonds. Right? Likewise, we can have. So in this example, we are going to see this. Right? In this, you see in a traditional system. Yes, in a traditional system, because in this example, we are going to see two major things, these key characteristics, as well as we are going to see what are all the advantage of uh, blockchain, as well as who are all the participants or the key participants that are all going to involve in the particular blockchain operation, right? So first, in this ownership transfer, the manufacturer is manufacturing some four-wheeler and he is recorded all these things in his in-house ledger. Yeah, again I am telling this is an in-house ledger, not a public shared ledger, right? In an in-house ledger. Now again, he once after manufacturing it, he recorded all those things in his in-house ledger and he is giving it to a dealer. Okay, whether it may be a any kind of car dealer, right? Again, once after getting this, he is recording the details of the car, what he get through the manufacturer in his in-house register, and he is handing over this to a leasing agent, right? This to a leasing agent. Now, see this the leasing agent will write it in his ledger and he is giving it for a leasing. So whether one or two persons may come and they may take it for auction, or they take it, or they may execute a bond and they may get the car. That details will be recorded in their in-house register, right? So till this, all the things are looks like in a safer manner. But you see, this will not be safe in all the conditions. You see, if the lessor or leaser who takes the car in lease don't want to give it back, then he may scrap it or he may give the car to scrap. But this thing will be recorded in his in-house register, but no other participants know what happening in there. So maybe these two may combinedly do fraudulent, or these three may combinedly do fraudulent, which may affect the manufacturer's profit, right? So for this purpose, we are distributing the ledger and we are introducing a person called a regulator. We are using a person called regulator who is having a common ledger or who is storing all the data and make it as a public ledger. So if a regulator is there means, then all the transaction will be in a safest manner. This leaser will not give the car to scrap without this regulator's knowledge, right? So let's take it in a technical manner, right? So again, I want to put all the participants here, right? The manufacturer, agent, leasing agent, and the lessor, and the scrapper, finally this regulator, right? So actually this regulator is a blockchain user who is not at all going to involve in any kind of transactions. He won't do any transaction, but he will regulate the transaction. He will audit the transaction. So he is a special kind of user, right? You see, in the blockchain concept, so that each and everyone will be connected through internet. So there will be a smart contract and there will be record ledger too. So this ledger will be distributed to everyone, to each and every person. So this contract and this public ledger will be created by a user called blockchain programmer, that we will see it in the upcoming slides, and the roles and the participants and rules, right? So here, that blockchain developer will create a smart contract, that is the condition for asset transfer. Under what condition that ownership can be transferred, under what condition the manufacturer can give the cars to uh, dealer, under what condition this dealer can give the cars to a leasing agent, and under what condition this leasing agent can give the car to lessor. Likewise, all the thing will be recorded in this contract, right? So this will be a smart contract and the transaction will be stored in the public ledger, right? So these things will be shared among all the user. Now this regulator will regulate it so that no fraudulence or no malpractice or no what we say, that denying the transactions or uh, tampering the transaction will happen, right? Okay, now let's see the key benefits. So the major benefits of the blockchain is it's a time-saving one, since each and everyone is having the public ledger and the smart contract. It's a time-saving one. There is no need of referring to a centralized database. So each and everyone is having their own copy. So it saves time and the tighter security, since it uses SHA-256 as well as, so each and every transaction is stored in an immutable manner, so it gives tighter security and it saves cost. That means no need of just referring or no need of depending on a central person. So each and every person is having their copy. It reduces the cost, and privacy wise it is enhanced. Auditability, right? So the auditability is a very important thing. So here, as I told, the regulator will do auditing whether the transaction is legal. Even the participants agree, the regulator will monitor the transaction, whether the legal transactions are happen. That way, the auditability will be maintained and the operational efficiency also increased here, right? So the key concepts for business is the shared ledger and the permissions, smart contract, consensus. So based on the four concepts, this is taken for the business too. Now let's see who are all the participants or who are all going to use the blockchain and what are all their roles. So first we are going to see the blockchain user, right? So blockchain user, each and every user who are all going to execute the uh, transactions are called as blockchain user. So who are all the participants that are all going to execute the transactions, right? So that users will be, or that participants will be called as blockchain users, whether they may initiate a transaction or they may finish a transaction or the ownership may change it to a particular user. So all those people will be called as blockchain users, right? So blockchain is a technology which will be executing in a background, but the users involved in the transactions, the initiator, the originator, and the destination people, the receiver. So all these people will be called as blockchain user. And next comes the regulator, right? So regulator, he is a special blockchain user. He is also a blockchain user who is having some sort of special permission to oversee the transactions that are all happening in the network, or that are all happening in the blockchain. So he can check all the transactions and he can audit the transactions, right? So, but he is not permitted to do any kind of transactions. He is not permitted to do transaction. So that is the task of regulator. So he has permission to regulate the thing. He has permission to monitor the transaction. He has permitted to audit the transaction, but he is not having permission to initiate a transaction or conducting a transaction. So that is the main thing. Next participant is a blockchain developer. So the blockchain developer, or we can say it as a programmer, or we can say it as a legal advisor. So these are all the people who creates the applications to execute the blockchain, and who creates the smart contracts that enable the blockchain user to conduct any kind of transaction on the blockchain network, right? So these users will be called as blockchain developer. And one more user is the blockchain network operator, right? So this blockchain network operator is a user who creates, who manage, who audits, sorry, he cannot do the auditing, but he can create, manage, and monitor the blockchain network. He won't perform auditing or he won't perform transaction, but he will take care of just managing the link, sorry, managing the blockchain operation, or he will take care of creating the network operation. If any failures occurs, means in terms of network, he is the responsible person for each and everything, right? So these are the users. So in each and every blockchain network, one blockchain network operator will be there, one regulator will be there, right? Now the next actor or the next participant is traditional processing platforms. Since we are not that means we are all in still we are in old platforms, old applications, we are not incorporated blockchain 100%. So we have some existing platform, we are having some traditional platform too, right? So these platforms should be incorporated in the blockchain. So this is one of the actor who is playing a vital role to incorporate the traditional processing platform into the blockchain platforms. That same as the traditional data sources. This is also the traditional data systems. Actually, blockchain uses a different data systems, but in our real world applications, we are in most of the times we are using some traditional systems, right? So these traditional data sources should be incorporated to the blockchain oriented. So for this, a user called a traditional data source user, that he will help to incorporate this traditional data source to blockchain data source. And the last user is called as certificate authority. That's who issues the certificates, who manage the different types of certificates required to run a permissioned blockchain, as well as who it's required to add blockchain users to this blockchain environment or to the blockchain transaction, right? So these are all the participants who are all involved in this blockchain, right? So to that, I want to conclude this session. So we have discussed what not the blockchain is, and we have discussed the background idea. So what the blockchain is, so why we invented blockchain, why we invented in a distributed manner. Likewise, we discussed and we have seen formal definition with some illustrations, and we have seen key characteristics, that too with some illustrations, and we have seen benefits of the uh, blockchain and the key concept for business. So what are all the concepts that is helpful for business? So that thing also we have discussed. And finally, we have discussed the roles, participants who are all involved in the blockchain, as well as their roles. Right. So to that, I want to conclude this session. So thank you very much for your passion listening. Thank you all.
Thank you, John, for your wonderful presentation. Participants, if you have any queries, okay, okay, fine. So, participants, you have a feedback link in the chat box. Kindly fill the form. And thank you, John, once again for your wonderful presentation. You have detailedly explained what is blockchain and various concepts related to smart contract, consensus, immutability, and various concepts we have covered. I hope the participants have understand the concepts behind this blockchain technology. So in upcoming sessions, we will be seeing elaborately on these concepts. Right. So tomorrow we have a speaker from SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Professor P. Vigneshwaran. He is going to deliver the topic on blockchain and its features. Right. So kindly join the meeting before 10 a.m. So have a good day. Bye. Take care.